Steve Savant. We're broadcasting live from the heart of Phoenix, Arizona on KXX TV, Family Values Radio. And I want to welcome all of our audience online on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I want to give a shout out to Beyond Fear to Freedom, one of the best Christ-centered fellowships that provide a safe and loving community for women in recovery. Just check out their site at beyondfeartofreedom.org. And all this week, we're on our third episode here of Cruz Lerma's story. All this week, we're talking to Cruz about her story before she found the Lord. And I mean, some of it's bizarre, but that you didn't go down certain roads is just amazing. If you haven't watched Monday and Tuesday's show, remember this show's always released after the fact, after the week of broadcast on KXXT. We push it out through online, through our YouTube and all our other social media sites, and you'll be able to go back and listen to this. And we'll also take the audio tracks and we shove them out on MP5s, uploads, as well as other vid support mechanisms that'll help you listen to it when you're in your car and so forth when you don't want, because we don't want you to be watching the show and while you're driving. Cruz, welcome back to day 3.
Well, I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad you're saved, but we're not going to talk about that today. We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Let's talk about, again, I think it's remarkable. I write a lot of stories. I've interviewed a lot of people. I've been in prison and jail for the last 15 years. I've heard stories that are just awful. How you never went down any of these roads of drug addiction, alcoholism, right? Prostitution. I mean, and now you interject even, you saw reality in the Ouija board. You saw reality in tarot card or palm reading, right? So you saw all these things, and yet you didn't bite on them.
Well, let me back it up here. You talk about prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
I was considering myself a slut, a prostitute,
Mm-hmm.
Dating these
You're
married
not,
men.
but you're not doing it for money.
No, I'm looking for
Mm-hmm.
love.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, you screw around and you fornicate.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference?
Mm-hmm. Well, one's getting paid and the other one isn't.
Well, I don't care about the money.
Okay. Okay. Did you see yourself that way, though? You just used some strong language about your former life.
That's the reality of me. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
I take it for what it is. Strong. That's how I see it.
Mm-hmm. When you were going through this, you didn't see, but you told me yesterday that this is all dead to you. You were walking dead. You didn't feel anything.
Nope.
And
no, I didn't.
When you went through these things and these relationships, you have a vision, hey, maybe someday I'll settle down with a guy. Maybe someday I'll find somebody, or no, it never.
That's what I wanted. That's what I was looking for, but they didn't want me. People often, you'd ask me, how come you're not married? Because nobody wants me. What can I do? The guys that I want, they don't want me. The ones that I don't want, they want me. So that's the way it worked out for me. So,
in your life during that time, do you think you were able to handle the? Because you shared before that there was several relationships that you had. Were you able to handle them? You just went on to the next person? You were able to put it in the back of your head, or was your heart so hard you just couldn't feel anything?
I could feel, I wanted, like several of the relationships that I thought were going to work out. I understand now it was God's hand on me. He would turn, Steve, God would turn their hearts from one day to another, like if they never had anything to do with me. Their hearts would change just like that. It's like, wow, what did I do? I tried to talk to them. No, never mind. It was like they didn't have anything to do with me. I understand now. It was God saying, I set you apart. You're mine. If I wanted you to have a relationship, I would have allowed them to work out. But I believe very strong now, if I would have gotten married, somebody would have ended up dead or divorced. Like my sisters, most of them have remarried twice or once. And I think my relationships were a failure. It was from God. So he protected me.
It's so tough to have any authentic, long-standing relationships without God at the center of your lives. Would you agree with that? That's a pretty bold statement here.
Yes, very strong.
Okay. And I'm thinking that, of course, I know you now. I've heard your testimony, and I know your story. And when I hear your story, it's not the person I know. Your life is it's a night and day story here, right? I mean, it's like, it's a trophy of grace issue, which we're going to get in tomorrow. We're going to hear the whole thing. I want to go back kind of a redux of this. things that we do as an adults, these are the incomplete issues from our childhood, or things that are holes in our hearts from our childhood. These are things, I'm not a regressive therapist, I'm not a psychologist, but some of this stuff is true.
Yeah, like you said, night and day. I see my life before like a caterpillar's life into a butterfly. Mm-hmm. That's the way my life was so drastically changed, like a caterpillar to a butterfly. Totally different.
Do you think if people are hearing this story, and I know, I'm thinking of, actually I was thinking of John 4 when you were talking. Here's this gal, she's had 5 relationships. Jesus meets her at the well. She's burning through one relationship after another, right? And she can't get satisfied. That well that she's digging from is not deep enough to take care of this gal.
Amen.
And she's just burning through these. Yeah. So if people are hearing this, just like Cruz, you went through these things, all these things you're talking about, and you finally came to a decision, hey, this is going nowhere. And I mean, that usually people just say, I'm just going to hang in there. I'm just going to try my best to, finally come through. The caterpillar will finally become a butterfly, but it wasn't happening in relationships.
Exactly.
I was thinking about that great line in prison where you just get tired of jumping over oceans for people who won't even jump a mud puddle for you.
Yeah. That cocoon, there's only room for the caterpillar and nothing else. Mm-hmm. If you're going to have life, Jesus said, if you're going to have life, you must learn to die. Mm-hmm. And that's, I believe now he was telling me, you die to everything because you're mine. That's what I keep hearing. You're mine. You don't belong to nobody else. So when people ask me, you're married? Yes, I am now. Your husband? Yeah, Jesus. They think I'm crazy, but that's the reality of it.
I had a girl once in one of our facilities that basically was really in trouble. She had numerous STDs and so forth, and she had already planned in her heart, I will never, ever have a relationship with a guy again. I've already fallen in love with a guy who's coming to me on a white horse, and it's out of the book of Revelation. It's got King of Kings and Lord of Lords on it, and she settled the issue. I have no problem being single. That's it for me.
Yeah, that's me too.
So when you settle an issue like that, I mean, you're going through these relationships, you just don't understand why it's working out. Now you're saying, wow, God might have even been intervening in my unbelieving life to stop me from making a horrendous mistake.
Yeah. I didn't tell you this, but when I was dating all these guys, I got pregnant. And I had a miscarriage. And it was very, very sad. But again, it didn't bother me because I was dead. And when I got saved, that was like 2 weeks before I got saved that I had the miscarriage. And God totally, totally gave me the hope you will see her again, because I was having dreams that it was a baby girl. And I was going to name her. I was, before I got the call, I was working. And the phone rang. I was standing in a guard shack at the airport. And before I answered the phone, I was looking through a magazine in cosmetics, and there was those little perfume papers.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the perfumes' name was Cruz Lerma. And I was thinking about the baby's name because I had dreams that it was going to be a little girl. And I said, I'm going to name her Cruz Lerma. And the phone rang, and they told me, yes, you're positive, you're pregnant. And how far am I? About a month and a half. And so in 2 weeks, I had the miscarriage.
What did you think initially when you took that call, though?
I was so happy for the first time in my life. Wow. And at the same time, depression and, the whole reality of my life, it was horrible. Those two emotions, it was horrible. At the
same time?
Yes.
People go through things like this where you're related that, hey, here's a child, that's a good thing. And then bad thing is, hey, what am I going to do?
Exactly.
So when you have those things, this is the conflict of people that are going through. It seems to me that God had provision, for children, marriage. He made provision for these things. And every time we walk outside those provisions, we get ourselves in a boatload of trouble.
Yes.
Now, Cruz, tell me, when you're thinking, when you had the miscarriage, were you in the hospital? Were you at home?
I was having pain already, and I was beginning to bleed. And I went to the doctor, and he told me, "You're fine." And so I went the first time, and the second time the pain was more severe. The cramps were like, "No, this is real," and the blood was darker. And so I went back to the doctor, and I said, I'm sitting there, and he says, "You're fine. You're gonna have this." So I wasn't born again yet. So I had a temper, make me mad. I'm gonna effing, and I started cursing him. "You effing is, you better send me to, because it's coming out." Do that, And I got right on his face, and I told him, "Send me." And he got scared, and he sent me to the hospital right away. And he came out in the bathroom in the hospital.
Wow. You're not a person to be trifled with as an unbeliever. Wouldn't you say that was true?
Yes.
You're one tough gal.
Well, at least they think I am, but I'm not.
Well, listen, when we come back from our second part, we're going to talk more about Cruz. Remember, we're going to hang in there for Thursday's day of conversion. I call it Holy Thursday, right? Because we always want to find out, hey, did this person make it? And people, if you're stuck in drive time, you'll want to be able to hear this out, because maybe her story might be your story. We'll be right back after this message from Beyond Fear to Freedom. I'm Steve Savant. We'll be right back.
I thought we were only doing 3. This is 3?
Yeah, the second half of 3.
Oh,
and then
okay.
we do another one all about your day you got saved, everything that happened afterwards, and then Friday is everything you're doing now, which will be all about the prison thing and the whole whole
Okay. All right.
Is there anything else that you want me to know before we go to the second half?
No, I'm just
so
waiting
after
on you.
after the miscarriage, then what?
Then I got saved 2 weeks after.
Okay. All right. Let's stay. I want to do a redux then, because we got about 10 minutes.
Okay.
I want to do kind of a summary of your entire unbelieving life. Okay. I want you to kind of summarize it from your little child, when you can remember, all the way up to this miscarriage, which is going to put you in position to get saved 2 weeks later.
Okay.
Their own life experiences and their biblical influence will overhaul your thinking, your identity, and your future. They'll keep you encouraged with some great insight and biblical truth. Just friend them on Facebook or go out to their website at beyondfeartofreedom.org. BFF, where you might just discover a best friend forever.
Well, welcome back. All this week we're talking to Cruz Lerma about her story, and it is a story. Listen, my biggest thing of Cruz that I get, my takeaway right now is that, wow, with everything that was going on in your life, the depression, the singleness, the isolationism, and everything that you experienced, how you ever didn't turn to drugs and alcohol and prostitution or anything like this, like some of the stories that we bring on this air, it blows my mind. And you say, looking back, that God was just stopping all this all the time. You tried to get into something else, and again, if you didn't catch Tuesday's show, that whole episode with the palm reader and the Ouija board, that wasn't very very good. Well, talk to me about this. Let's talk about kind of everything that's happened to summarize your life, because after this miscarriage, you are 2 weeks out from getting saved, right?
Yes.
And you don't. And remember, tomorrow we're going to talk about that. You did not see this coming.
No, so I see my life now that, like Jesus said, if the seed is not dead, you can't plant it. It can't give you life. So I think that after the miscarriage, my life became totally, I thought I was dead before, but after that miscarriage, even people, what is wrong with you? You look so pale. I couldn't even laugh anymore. I couldn't even enjoy anything anymore. It was totally like, I've been buried now. That was the end of it. And I saw my life as like worthless and useless. Failure after failure. What's the sense of living anymore? Had no hope.
Did you actually consider maybe taking your life during that time period?
I couldn't feel anything.
You couldn't even feel anything to do it?
Nothing.
I'm wondering if there's people that have gone through some of the things that you've went through in these last couple of days that we've been talking about your story. A lot of people feel like losers. A lot of people feel like failures. And as we've said, you've heard me share this inside. I look at 4 people. You're a loser and you know it. You're a loser and you don't know it. You're not a loser and you know it. And you're not a loser, but you don't yet know it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have people. So for people, you get to the place, and I feel the same way as you do. But just before I got saved, I felt like, hey, it doesn't get any lower than this. I'm a loser, and I know it, and I'm conscious of it. And if God wants to take me, if there is a God, and He wants to take me out, fine with me, because there wasn't anything to live for.
Exactly.
When you think about your life that you went through, you have a little over a quarter of a century living as an unbeliever and grasping for straws that none of it brought life.
Exactly.
When you summarize your life, when you look at all the things we've talked about, all the way back from your childhood, all the way up to this time of this terrible event of a miscarriage, you are one of the few people I've interviewed where you still say, looking back, oh my gosh, there's so many God events, God points, God interventions, God history in my unbelieving life. Mm-hmm. See, to me, that's the most phenomenal thing about your story is you look back at it and I say, oh my gosh, God was there all along.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that for other people who are hearing your story and how that might encourage them.
Well, if you look at your life back, when I look at my childhood, I was a poor girl, with 12 brothers and sisters. And every time my mom sent me for an errand, there was always somebody feeding me. They had a gift of food for me. I would go to the store and buy tortillas, and this lady, I didn't even know the lady. I don't think she knew me, but she would hand me over a brown sack, and I would open it. There'd be a sandwich of sweet bread, food. Mm-hmm. And I said, I don't want it. I don't have money. No, take it. It's a gift. And I would run with it and eat it. Mm-hmm. It happened to me like God's hand. It says, I will provide for you. It was there. And so if you look at your life, God has always provided food, shelter, the very necessities. And even if you were not given food or necessities, you're alive for a purpose. It's like the Bible says, what gain do you have if you gain the whole world and yet your soul is so messed up? Mm-hmm. You're better off in that position, because that's the way I felt. My soul was so hurting. I didn't gain the world, and I'm glad I didn't, because if had I been an officer, I think that I would have been more messed up than without God.
Mm-hmm. When you think about the trials and tribulations that you went through, and a lot of people go through them. I mean, before you know the Lord, listen, we're living in chaos. I mean, just face it, our lives are chaotic, unorganized. There's no purpose. When you think about your life, all the way up to the moment now you're going to be saved, we're going to talk about that tomorrow. How big is having a purpose in your life? How big is it?
Very, very important to have a purpose. And that's what I was searching for, a purpose and direction. And I used to say when I was a kid, and even to my young years, adolescent and even in my 20s, what's the whole purpose? What is the direction? That's what I was looking. That's why I went to the Ouija board. That's why I went to the palm reader. I wanted purpose and direction. Mm-hmm. School didn't have it, not for me. Mm-hmm. Men didn't have it, not for me. Nothing had it, except the Bible.
I've noticed, this is just my personal experience here, but I think there might be some biblical truth to this. I've noticed that people who have great capacity for wickedness, because that's spiritual in itself. If you're wicked, it's still spiritual. It's just spiritual wickedness. If you have a capacity for wickedness, how much more capacity could you have if you became a lady of light? You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean, we all know we had the capacity for evil. What could our capacity for good look like? But you didn't see that yet. We're not there yet. But we already knew, hey, where we're coming from, this is a dead end. And for you, I loved your line. You said, I was dead. And it doesn't get any deader than the way I felt. And sometimes you feel you're so dead you can't feel. You're anesthetized. Women's intuition has been suppressed so long, you can't move. You can't feel in any direction. There's no Holy Spirit because there's no Spirit at all.
Right.
I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Yes, exactly.
So in your mind, Cruz, what do you think? Do you think, and you've dealt with a lot of people over the last 15 years, how many people that you've seen in prison and jail that were just like you? I mean, I don't think you're the minority.
I believe that all these people without God are just like me. Mm-hmm. We've all had different experiences, but some of us have trying to gain life through other ways. And at the jail, our society is hurting. And all I see at that jail is hurting people, hurting women, hurting men. If they would just stop denying, they would bring them back to the true humanity, which Jesus came to show us. It's not real. This world, it's lies, the masks that it puts on you, they're not real. Because like I keep teaching in my classes, true humanity is to love and be loved. Nurture that love instead of abusing it. That's true humanity. But we don't know how. When we're outside of God, we just keep hurting each other because we think human love is totally different than God's love. Human love is very selfish, and it only gives because you're giving it to me. But if you don't, then we betray one another. That's not true humanity. True humanity is love your neighbor as yourself. Love the Lord your God with all of your heart, with all of your might, so that you can love humanity. Because that's what it's all about. And I see at the jail, my heart is that they would get this simple fact. It is not normal for you to keep hurting. So what do? Go back to your manufacturer, the creator who created you. He will help you. And all the doors are being shut to you because God's saying you're going the wrong way. So, and that's what he did to me. He shut every door because I was going the wrong way. At least I was trying to. And he says, you're not going there, Cruz. Because you have a purpose to fulfill. So that's what I say to all these women and these men that are hurting. Stop running. And the door on purpose is being shut on you because you're going the wrong way.
So if they're feeling that there's a lot of blockades in their life right now, that could be God detouring them away from whatever could really screw their life up.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about one last thing before we close out our segment today. What about the people that shared with you? You had the UPS driver that shared a little bit to you. You had your roommates talking. None of this spoke to you at the time that it occurred. Is that what you're saying? Or did some of it start to get...
The UPS driver, he's the one, because of him, I got saved too. And the girls praying for me. But he's the one that got it right on my face, Steve, as we were driving. And he told me, Cruz, if you don't have Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior in your heart, and he got right straight, you're going to go straight to hell. And he was very blunt about it.
Did that tick you off that he talked to you like that?
No, he scared literally the hell out of me.
So that actually had a positive effect.
Yes. It scared me. I said, what? Because I knew there was a hell. I used to dream about God and hell. And he said, what? Yes, if we get in an accident right now and you die, you're going to go straight to hell because you didn't ask God for forgiveness. And that well, tell me about it. From that time on, the whole trip, it was like 6 hours, driving around Yarnell. This is the thing, Steve. When he told me, I started asking him questions about God, and he started telling me the truth. And he ended up taking me to Yarnell at that shrine that they built of... have you ever been up there and have the boulders? He took me up there, and that's where God literally spoke to me. And he took me through the whole thing. That was God telling me, you're going to die to this old world, and you're going to be revived. That was God's ordained.
And you knew it. Wow.
Afterwards, not before.
Right. Well, listen, we're going to continue our entire interview with Cruz Lerma all this week. Tomorrow, of course, I call it Holy Thursday. We'll talk about our conversion. Don't forget to check out BFF's meetings on Friday night at 5:30 for food and fellowship, 6:15 for some of the best sharing you've ever experienced. Childcare provided. Just hop out to their site at beyondfeartofreedom.org and check out all the information you'll need. So until next time, I'm Steve Savant, and remember, no one's outside the reach of God. No, not one.